Good morning, Bear Nation. I want to start off by saying that typically the weekly threat matrix is something that is done exclusively on Patreon and for the $10 and up patrons. And for whatever reason, that didn't feel like the way to do it this morning, so I didn't. Good morning, Travis Fleming, man, and everybody else. The conviction was to come here to YouTube and to do it here, and so we're gonna let that be what it is. So with that, good morning. I want to tell y'all that we've been in continued talks with Bethany House as far as assisting them with their ongoing needs for construction through Grindstone Ministries. We have one more deployment to put together for Bethany House to do the last little bit of what needs to happen there in order for them to be able to be operational. We're not going to split hairs, but suffice it to say, I am very much so of the opinion that they could easily be up and running by now. They disagree. It only took them 5 months to say so, but we're gonna go finish what we started. They do, however, need a maintenance man. So if you want to contact the Demand Project, don't contact me. If you want to contact the Demand Project, their maintenance guy lasted 11 days because warfare is real. And so when you step out in faith for the Most High and start punching the enemy in his wallet by taking his product off the market, he wrecks your effing life. Yeah, Big JD, 11 days. So if you've got the spiritual stones to step into the ring with the enemy and start punching him in the face, email the Demand Project. Just go to the Demand Project. It's on the internet. And see if you can assist them, because they do need somebody full-time there to just keep all of the things running, okay? There you go. Good morning, Sheepdog Patriot. We're gonna do the weekly overview threat matrix, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. 19 July 2020. Shalom, Air Force retired. Oh, Andrew, I'm hanging, man. I'm hanging. I'm good. I got this respiratory junk bull crap. It's good, man. I got stung in the back of the head by a wasp yesterday, and I'm allergic, so I took a fistful of Benadryl and then slept from noon yesterday till 5:22 this morning. So, yeah, the Kraken, you missed the intro. So for those who missed, yeah, a murder wasp, that's right. So anyway, let's just say it was a very restful Sabbath because I laid in bed literally dead to the world. Good morning, Tommy, for, I don't know, what is that, 17 hours? So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. If you missed the intro, this is the weekly threat matrix. This is that ice gold, that Michelle Pfeiffer, that white gold. This is them hood rats or whatever comes next, I forget. No, this is the threat matrix that is done weekly on Patreon that I decided to do on YouTube today because I can and it's my show. So if you're like, WTH, what's going on? Typically this would happen on Patreon for the $10 and up patrons. Yet here we are on YouTube today, mostly because I wanted to give y'all the update about Bethany House, that we will be going there one more time to allow them to bear fruit. And then after we go there one more time, we will allow them to bear fruit. And then my deepest and most sincere prayer is that they bear fruit, because the world needs 1,000 Bethany houses, not just one. And so we're going to get this one up and going and then identify where the next one is. And I'm going to be completely frank with you. Yeah, Ron, you're welcome, question mark. I'm not building them a chapel until they bear fruit with what we've already done for them. Doesn't mean the chapel's coming off the table, but until they start using the intake facility to actually rescue children, what do you need a chapel for? Who's gonna go to the chapel? There's nobody there. So, all right. For those of you who are like, what was that? It was these. You should get some. Try oral rehydration salts. Don't worry about the World Health Organization. They suck. Amen, sheepdog. But these are good. They come in 25s like this. This is like their citrus flavor. Then they come in 100s like this. We use these in some of our med kits. We also use these when you've slept for 17 hours after being assaulted by myrtle wasps. So, all right, let's do the damn brief. Roger that, everybody. Thank you all, Bear Nation. I know that sometimes I'm a hard ass, but damn it, I love you guys. Food scarcity. Locusts continue to plague many countries across the globe. It is estimated that 2.5 million people could be affected. Exactly how the ripple effect will spread is unknown. As historic flooding in many regions of the world is also destroying cropland. There was record flooding in the US last year, so the strain continues to stack up. Now, what can we do about this? What will we do about this? Continue stacking food. Continue stacking food. Do not take your foot off of the food storage accelerator right now. I know that it feels like food is really expensive right now. And in the micro, it is. But in the macro, it's still historically low. And my fear is, to the extent that I'm fearful of anything, that a year or two from now, we start looking back and going, remember when pintos were only $1 a pound? Because they're $4 a pound now. It means that 50-pound sack at Sam's Club that's $30 is now $200. Right. That's real, real increase in expense to the rafters, amen. So don't quit stacking food right now, and don't quit growing food. Do everything that you can to grow food, because that food storage is what buys you time in between the system either collapsing, good morning, smell buds, either collapsing or degrading to the point that it no longer works with enough efficacy to keep you to keep your head above water. So as this decreases, you have to increase, right? So the thing that gets you through that, your cushion, your padding, is your food storage. But you can't eat food storage forever. Sooner or later, your buckets are gonna run out. So what do you eat after that? Your agriculture has to spin up, okay? So keep stacking food, keep growing food. If you're not doing either, start. Yes, I got PMags. Bless you. In fact, we get so many packages, I need to ask Renee what came from who and who came from what. But if you're the PMag guy, bless you. Question, how did you get him back into the sealed PMag pouch? My mind was blown. Anyway, they're gorgeous. Economic crisis. The increasing case numbers are causing political leaders to force businesses to close or operate at greatly reduced capacity once again. This will exacerbate the economic issues already faced. Dying businesses, stagnating cash flow, withering job markets, and an unemployment system groaning under the strain of the jobless masses, millions of whom have yet to receive a single benefits check. How do we deal with this? If you can, get out of debt now. Now. A debtor is a slave to his debt. If you look at who weathered the Great Depression with the least amount of impact, it was those who were not in debt. They might not have had 2 pennies to rub together, but they didn't owe anybody anything either. Their land was their land, okay? They could grow food on it. They were not leveraged in debt. Nobody came to take away what they owned, all right? If you can, get out of debt. At least acquire no new debt. Don't go into any new debt. Don't take on debt. This is life-changing. The American people have gotten hooked on cheap money. We're addicted to cheap money. I believe that coronavirus is being used in large part to, and I've been saying this from the beginning, to crash land the world's economies. Because we were already riding an unsustainable bubble. Well, I think rather than letting that bubble burst, they stuck a pin in it and are letting it collapse. They're crash landing this economy rather than just flying it straight into the side of a mountain. So get out of debt. Don't take on any new debt and look for opportunities. During the Great Depression, people who did well were not in debt and they had physical assets to deploy against opportunity. So having, like, one of my favorite stories is a guy who bought up a whole bunch of radio and telegram offices in the South because he had hogs. Now, I don't eat swine, but they did. And he went around literally buying telegram offices for a pig or two because people were starving to death. At the end of the Depression, he owned like a couple hundred radio stations and telegram offices. He built a communications conglomerate on the backs of swine because he wasn't in debt, so nobody came to repo his farm, and he had what everybody else needed. He deployed assets against the opportunity. So if you can, now start stacking assets so that if opportunities present themselves, you can deploy those assets against potential opportunities. Right? It's business 101. Civil unrest. Let's see, there we go. Violence against federal officers and police continue. A federal officer was attacked by a hammer-wielding man while leaving a courthouse. A plainclothes officer was punched by a protester, and 2 men attacked police during a protest in New York City. Violent confrontations regarding the wearing of masks is increasing. There have been multiple physical altercations and stabbings, and people are often denied entry or service to many locations if they are not wearing a mask. Good morning, overall living. I hope your life is splendid, bro. I really do. This whole altercation over people not wearing masks, this is behavioral modification. And if you're the person wearing the mask, you've modified your behavior a certain way, and you see somebody who hasn't, and it creates this incongruency in your mind that people have a violent outlash towards, right? I did it. How come you're not doing it? I'm safe. You're not safe. You being not safe is making me feel unsafe. Aaron Martin, good morning, brother. So, how do you deal with that? Well, the first is population density. That's not an issue out here. It's not an issue out here. Ashley Storms, good morning, sister. Nobody's getting punched in the face out here for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. In fact, I was taking a walk with my little one in the town where my office is the other day, and we walked past a second-hand store, and they had all these things plastered all over the door about how you must wear a mask to enter in the whole nine, and Aspen wanted to go in. And I said, no, we're not going in. Just not doing it. And so we kept walking, and the guy who owns the store came out, and he said, sir, you can come in here. I said, man, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm just not doing it. And he said, you don't have to. I said, well, what the hell's all over your door? And he said, we have to post that, so we posted it, but you don't have to wear a mask in here. Okay. So we went inside. She bought a little fire truck, and we left. But I'm not doing it. And here, you know, my friend and brother Seth Denson on the Somewhere in the Middle show podcast and here on YouTube recently did a video where he his final thoughts, I guess you'd call them. He said, you know, conservatives, is this the hill that we're going to die on? The wearing of masks or the not wearing of masks? You know, and he said, he made the point, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, you know, back in the day, our grandparents were asked to truly sacrifice during World War II and grow victory gardens and, you know, rations and higher taxation and fuel shortages and yada, yada, yada. And all we're being asked to do is wear a mask. And in this war against coronavirus. And now, I understand what he's saying, but my rebuttal is this. The efficacy or lack thereof of masks is proven. It's proven. The modification of my behavior for no actual increase in public safety is bull crap. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So that's why. If the World Health Organization was trustworthy, maybe. If they hadn't flip-flopped back and forth on masks several hundred times already, maybe. If the mask actually stopped viruses, maybe. But this is not the case. And so I'm not going to modify my behavior because a bunch of people that don't know me and I don't know them would like me to because it makes them feel better. Well, I don't care about feelings. I care about what is true and what is not true. They don't work. And of course you get this argument, well, if they don't work, why do medical professionals wear them, you know, during surgeries and to keep the surgery that they're doing when they've got one of these in their hand when they're cutting on somebody that their spittle doesn't get in there and cause an infection. But it's not because there's viruses flying around the room. So there's certain things for sure that masks work on. Coronavirus is not one of them. So I'm not doing it. I'm just not gonna do it. So recycle prepper, amen. Now, the next thing here, as far as the civil unrest of masks go, is sanctification. Don't be where people are punching each other in the face over masks. The internet got really pissy because I did a video on how to survive martial law, and step one is don't be where martial law is. How do you not get punched over masks? Don't be where people are punching each other because of masks. That's really, really easy. I'm not in New York City. That's not an accident. I could live, frankly, anywhere in the world. I live where I want to live. I live where the Father has planted me. We don't have these issues here. So remove yourself, sanctify yourself, set yourself apart from Babylon, where the chaos is. Come out of her, my people, and come over here. Be away from. It's really hard for somebody to punch you in the face for not wearing a mask when there's nobody around you. Their arms don't reach from New York City out here into eastern Oklahoma. And in eastern Oklahoma, we punch back, which comes back to personal security as well. All this civil unrest. See this? You're your own first responder. Remember that? An armed society is a polite society. If somebody's punching me in the face, I've done my job wrong. If we're escalating here, yeah. Personal security. Who is in charge of your security? You are. I'm in charge of my wife's security, my family's security, to a greater or lesser extent, Bear Clan's security, a portion of our tribal security, our community security, all this stuff, right? But it starts with me. Nobody is punching me in the face. And if they do, I will respond in like kind at a minimum. At a minimum. Yeah, exactly, recycled. So, how do you deal with civil unrest? Don't be where it is. Sanctify yourself. Remove yourself from a bad population density equation and take personal responsibility for your own security and well-being. War. The U.S. has officially declared invalid some of China's maritime claims as well as some of Venezuela's. The U.S. has intentionally sent ships through those areas recently. What does this mean for you? Potentially higher taxes if war comes. That's one thing that's not really been discussed. But how do you pay for taxes? Bonds, or how do you pay for war? Taxes and bonds. So that's an issue. Questionary thing. Thank you. Appreciate you. So, also, war interrupts supply chains a lot. War can lead to rationing, and as stated over and over at this channel, war is at its most basic form the allocation of certain resources towards the acquisition of or defense of other certain resources. So, what do? Scarcity of resources. If we know that there's scarcity of resources, there's two things. There's two approaches to this, and both of which revolve around being independent of the system. Remember, bear independent. This, Whiskey Alpha Romeo. How do we deal with that? By the way, apparently on Teespring, there's some new cool thing. Teespring is who makes these shirts for us, where like if you buy one during a live stream, it's supposed to ding. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm just letting you know. They emailed me about that. We'll see. Good morning. So, if it's a game of resources and resources are becoming scarce within the system, you can either stockpile resources from the system, which I have been telling y'all to do for years. War may affect shipping times, amen. Or create your own resources. So, same thing. It's the same thing over and over again. Take personal responsibility for your well-being. Tyranny. Over half of the U.S. is currently subject to mask mandates. Only 7 states have no mandate at all. 9 states have reversed their reopening measures, and in California, protests are allowed, but in-home Bible studies are not. Well, California, that's ridiculous. And I know there are a lot of good people in California, but it seems like there's a lot more that aren't. And I really want to scream and yell, but that's not going to fix anything. What I can tell you is this. You have to build your own reality. You have to build your own reality. Are you going to do what everybody else tells you to do? Or are you going to do what the Father tells you to do? Are you going to do what everybody else thinks is right? Or are you going to do what you know is right? Are you going to subcontract your well-being to somebody else, or are you going to take personal responsibility for it? Now, see, there's an opportunity here because the system is fraying at the edges. It's beginning to crack. This thin veneer of civility that we experience as the American dream is starting to fall away. And I think it's entirely possible, as I've discussed numerous times at this channel, that Sir John Glubb was correct. The fate of empires, yeah, we're coming up on 250 years, baby. America as we know it is going away. But we tend to think of change as a negative thing. And if we can short circuit this cycle of empires and realize that what comes next is phase 1, the rebuilding, the birth of a new nation, and start thinking now, what does that look like? What am I gonna do to make that be the way that I need it to be for me, for my personal convictions? And then do it, and then take personal responsibility. Because yeah, Tyranny for real. You're telling me I'm not allowed to study my own Bible in my own home? F you. Question everything. Thank you. Our founding fathers would have pulled the musket over the hearth and sharpened their swords and their knives and their hatchets and their axes. Tyranny, actual. It's real. What are you going to do about it? And I'll tell you, somebody asked me recently, hey, what do you think about 3% groups? I've never seen them do anything. What do you think about militias? I've never seen them do anything. You know why? Honestly, it's because we got more to lose. We have families, we have businesses, we have investments. By and large, we're not young, stupid children in love with the ideas of communism. I think most of us believe in live and let live. It takes a lot to give up everything, to put your nuts on the line for your convictions and your beliefs. And I think, to a certain extent, that time is coming. But I'm telling you, we're at the end of an age in the United States of America. And by and large, I believe it's up to us to make whatever comes next be what we need it to be to match our convictions and our beliefs. I have a modicum of hope that that's possible. And this is not a call to action, but if all we ever do is sit around and talk about it, ain't nothing ever gonna change. Hey, and I'm not jumping in the ass of the militias and the 3%. I'm just saying I don't see them doing. I don't see them doing. If ever there was a time to do, Rome is burning. Both coin shortage and unemployment system failures continue. I think we need to think about economic resilience and how economic resilience is not just financial resilience. Money allows the flow of goods and services. That's what it does. Well, goods and services will still be valuable if we get into a situation where the money is not. And so I would encourage you to think about what can you barter or trade? What can you do? What do you bring to the table? What value do you add? Why should somebody feed you? Thank you for that $4 bill. It's a really good question to ask yourself. Why should somebody feed you? What do you bring to the table? Thank you, Pyro Krista. Landlocked, I do. I do. I think physical wealth makes sense, but I do not believe in it as a vehicle for investment. I see it as a hedge against cash that is worth less or worthless. So economic resilience. Right now, our economy is monetary. It's very possible that it goes back to or reverts to, for a time, agricultural or commoditized economy. I have this, you have that. I make this, you make that. I can do this, you can do that. You grow corn, I cut firewood. It's very simple, right? And I don't necessarily think we're going back to the 1800s here, but I do think it's a matter of what can you do for me? What can I do for you? Why are you worth feeding? Because when I can't pay you in cash anymore, or digitized currency, or ones and zeros, or Bitcoin, or check, or whatever, what am I gonna pay you with? Sheep, chickens, corn, wheat? Which begs the question again, why are you worth feeding? So, that is the weekly threat matrix: food scarcity, economic crisis, civil unrest, war, tyranny, and Rome burning. Slow Chuck, bless you. Thank you. Chris Chambers, thank you. Matthew, thank you. October is going to be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've got about 6 weeks or so period of opportunity before a real potential for things to get screwy. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I have no intention of scaring anybody. The reason that we do this is because I want you to be in a position of strength. Let me be clear about this. The world does not need me with 100,000 followers. The world needs 100,000 me's. Okay? I need 100,000 of y'all to be squared away. Thank you, Mike. Bless you. Thank you. I need 100,000 of y'all to be squared away. I don't need 100,000 of y'all walking in lockstep behind me. Okay? That's why we put together actionable, continue stacking food and growing food, get out of debt, acquire no new debt, and look for economic opportunities right now. Spartan 11, thank you. Check your population density, sanctify yourself, and take personal responsibility for your security. Figure out what you're going to do if higher taxes or bonds become a real thing because of real war, and work on your independence from the system. Build your own reality so that tyranny affects you less, and understand that economic resilience is not necessarily financial. Goods and services will still be valuable. Why are you worth feeding? To reiterate, Bethany House needs a maintenance man. Google The Demand Project. I think it's thedemandproject.org. You can go to grindstoneministries.com if you'd like to donate to us directly. And as stated, we are going to put together one more deployment to Bethany House to handle the last little things that should not be a deal breaker, but apparently are, so that they can do their job and use that facility for what it was built to do. And if they bear fruit with that, then we will pour into them moving forward. But we must give them an opportunity to prove their concept and do what they say they're going to do. That is straight up Torah. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. grindstoneministries.com and thedemandproject.org. Lastly, this is typically only a Patreon exclusive for the $10 and up patrons. So, if you'd like to find yourself in that category, patreon.com, search for Bear Independent. YouTube hates our guts. Every day it gets a little bit more difficult for us to do business with YouTube. JC Fouts, I was thinking about you this morning, brother. I hope everything's right in your world. So, come see us on Patreon. Shalom, y'all.